In my making the series about buying mill surplus guns from different venues and auctions, I had a few subscribers and some suggestions of making a video on how to sell your surplus firearms. Now the reason I'm making this video is to give some ideas and thoughts and some advice on how to get the full value of your gun collection, no matter how large or small it is, or so that for whatever reason, in the end, when it's time to liquidate what you have, your personal possessions, you get a fair deal. Now, one way of looking at this is, as you all know, I fooled around with precious metals again, and I made some videos, and I have accumulated some physical metals as part of an investment, and these times now it is working out. But the one thing all of the people who have channels and talk about this, and one thing they do tell you, is to plan ahead on how to liquidate this or what you're going to do. And much like a gun collection, some people want to leave it to a relative. Okay, but if you're in a situation like me, you don't have anybody who wants it or wants to deal with a collection of guns that they know nothing about, they don't know the true value in that. This can be problematic, okay? So you have to think ahead, all right? And plan. I mean, a lot of people don't like it. I've seen where people never cared, and then when the individual passes on, his collection is sold for, 20-30% of its actual true value. Okay, I mean, I've seen some real horrible things happen. Or people that just have huge collections that pass away, and then, So we'll go over step by step, and I'll give you some thoughts. And again, it's up to the individual. All right, so we'll start with point number one. Why are you selling the collection and your things? It might not be the whole collection, maybe part of it. And what are the circumstances? Okay. A couple things like what happened to me. I was 40 years old. I lived up in the Rust Belt in New York, and I was out of a job, and I would never find a job working as a machinist in that region ever again. And not so much New York, but Ohio, Michigan, and all these people down here in North Carolina with me are down here for the same reason. Okay, and I had to liquidate of just about half, if not more, of my gun collection. Okay, and most of it was mill surplus. And I kind of did get some of the value out, not as much as I wanted. So you see, time is a factor, and that's something critical here. Plan ahead and don't be in a situation where you're pressured with time. Okay, because to get the most value out of it, you're going to have to take your time and calculate how you're going to do it. Okay? And also another thing, not so much the time, but say you decide you're going to pull the plug altogether, okay? Because much like with the silver coin, you can sell parts of your collection or things that somebody you already know may want and pay you a decent price, sell parts. But then when you go to where the bulk sale, where you call an auction company, and that's where a lot of people will tell you, if you're looking, like say, that the sale is after you're gone. So you don't want to part with your gun collection while you're still around. And what you would do is make arrangements with a reputable auction company and leave instructions, with your lawyer in your will, or with your loved ones, that this is all, and if it's a large enough collection, they will travel to you, catalog pack up the stuff, and you fill out, I've done this, fill out these sheets, and off they go. Generally, whenever you try to sell in one lump sum, be it to an auction house, or through an auction house, or to a dealer. Sometimes there are dealers that will come and make you an offer and take it all in one shot. Okay, less headaches, time, okay, less time screwing around, and that, but you're not going to really get the full value because this individual is looking to make a profit. Okay, and especially the larger and more valuable it is, kind of the more you're probably gonna lose. Alright, so those are things to think about. The reason. Me, with the increased cost of Milsurp guns, I got some items I want, but they cost me more than I really wanted to pay. But, like, again, time is a factor. How long my health will hold out, and I'd like to work on something now other than waiting to snag something at a decent price at an auction by luck than not. So I was thinking of just tapping a little into the collection, okay, other than liquidating it all or with a set value. Let's say you had a problem where there's an unexpected cost or bill, and you really don't want to deplete your savings. You'd rather, move some of your collection to offset these expenses. So you have to kind of think ahead and plan. Keep that in mind. Get a game plan. Okay, now when we look at the next question would be, kind of what type of collector are you? Okay, are you one of these guys that buy these Milsurp just off the website when they come in, and that, or are you an actual collector? Don't know how to describe it. Someone who specializes in a certain type of firearms and goes to accumulate the best examples he can find, both in rarity and condition. The one thing I've seen is a lot of people that say they collect Milsurp, I've seen them buy guns, never even look at the bore or anything. Or people that just buy online, which there's nothing wrong with that, and just accumulate these guns from like Royal Tiger and that, paid an exorbitant amount of money, and the resale is not there. Especially when I look at them and know I won't even, at any price, pick up one of those firearms. So you see, even though you're thinking you're collecting a collection and you have some money in it, the value may not be there. Okay, so that's what type of collector you are. Also, a lot of us will have an accumulation of guns, say, that were left, like my dad, granddad, shotguns, hunting rifles, and that are not Milsurp guns. Okay, these firearms, and the reason I say this, a little bit of a difference. They're kind of easier to sell other than a Milsurp gun. It's more of a specialized thing. And you can generally very easily, using arms list or a local sale, liquidate these and get your value out of them, because it's something more common and more desirable. There's more people around in general that will buy that, probably closer to where you live, depending on your circumstances, than, like if I had a real rare military surplus gun and tried to sell it locally here, there's a handful of guys that are interested, and I know them. I doubt they're going to give me what the real value of it is. Something rare and unusual should be sent to an auction where you're getting views from a different perspective and more people interested in that specific item. Okay, as compared to a Mossberg 500 shotgun or a Winchester 94 Okay, something like that's pretty easy to sell at a flea market or locally, and generally you will find someone who will give you a good value out of it, without trying to screw you. So that's another thing, what are you selling? And the weird thing is also down in here, certain guns are more popular. We'll look at like the AR-15. Okay, they fluctuate in price, and selling one of them pretty easy, even though it's not a Milsurp gun. Okay, as compared to like Carcanos, because they're popular now, like back when Mosin Nagants were, those would be pretty easy to move, and depending on the model or what it is. The last auction I went to, the short rifles in 7.35 was, I'd say, in good condition. It went for like a little over 3 C-notes. So, they will kind of sell. Anything like KR98s, alright, M1 Garands, M1 carbines, and any old World War II original issue pistol. There were 2 of them in this last auction, $2K each. Okay, they were nice guns. They were made during the war. They were in good shape. Where he got them, through surplus or whatever. But yeah. Okay, so again, that's another thing against you. As compared to, say, I don't know, an obscure Mauser, be it an Argentine or something, may not draw, or it could be rare too, but it will not draw the interest or the money. Okay, then we also have, bringing up that, we have different types of guns that fall into Milsurp. This Set Me See that I bought from Southern Tactical. Now, this is a newly produced weapon, okay? It's designed a semi-automatic version of a military weapon, okay? But they also may depreciate in value depending on the rarity or how many are made and all this other stuff. As compared to this Argentine carbine, okay, which is a Milsurp. They're not being manufactured. There's, I think, 30,000 of these made or something like that. So it's quite rare, but it's also a good example. You really ain't gonna, unless you got somebody that really collects, likes the condition, the bore, and is willing to pay some money for this, you may not get your full value out of this gun that easily. Okay? Okay, and I kind of got ahead of myself because, like I said, for you even start, you should know the current value, actual values of the firearm, the condition, how rare it is. And there are some guns that are rare that people just do not collect. Okay? And the reason you should understand this is, I'll give you an example. Say I had a really nice AR-15. I could go to a local flea market and eventually sell it to somebody. Okay, I might have to go a few weekends, but somebody will know what it is, know what the value is, and if they really want it, and that's another key, are you selling these things to people who actually want it, not somebody trying to grab it at a lower price, mark it up and make a profit? Because about 8 of the people that show up are looking to do that. You gotta find a person that wants it to use it, and they're the ones that'll pay. Okay? Something like that I could sell. Now, say I had a German Dreise needle fire gun. Okay, one in shootable condition, halfway decent. They run about 3K on average. Again, depending on condition and all that other stuff. But say I had a nice one, and I wanted to get rid of it. Well, that's where you got to pick where you're going to put it. And there are certain auction houses that kind of specialize in that. And that's where I've seen these guns come up and try to win them. Okay. And that's where you have to have a little bit more information and thought. It's kind of like you can take some of your more common stuff and sell it in one venue, but something like that, probably you should find a more specialized venue to sell your item. Okay. So you ask, how do I assess? And see, this is the thing. You have to kind of get a realistic value. How would you do that? There are guidebooks, there's Blue Book of Gun Values, there's all kinds of resources that you have, the older ones, but they may not be very current or very useful, because the way things have been the past 10 years, everything shifts, and your value and desirability changes like the wind. Okay, let me get the computer back up again here and I'll give you some advice. Alright, I'm not going to get like really close to it or intense, but True Gun Values. It's a free lookup, okay, and I'm just checking my battery level here in my kick. So what I did is you type in the top, Mauser KR98 rifle, and let's see if that does it. Gives us something. Okay, is currently worth, it gives you an average price, $949. Okay, has risen 41 notes, and then it shows you where they've sold at auction and gives you the price. Okay, so this is probably one of the best tools to get a current idea, because I guess this thing scans all these different auctions. Copenhagen, New York, Anaheim, California, Anaheim. And most of them are over a K, just about. They're not giving you the auction sites, but view all sold. 86. So they will list 86 different sales, or probably auctions in that, where they are, and give you a price. Okay, so that is one cool way of doing it, and it's current. And like I said, if you read up here, they gave you a summary, and they give you an average price, $949, so about a K. Okay, and it says the demand for them has not changed over the past 12 months. This is a 12-month average price, and it kind of gives you an estimated value. Alright, so that is one free resource that is pretty good, okay, to where you can get an idea of what the value is. Now, when I ran that Argentine carbine, it came up with no results. So, it's not flawless, put it to you that way. And you also find out the popularity, where KR98s are popular, there was a lot of results. So, once you establish kind of what a fair value is now, like I've showed you with the gun broker, you can go see the closed auctions. But a lot of times people will shill bid because they know you're going to see the value or what it's sold for. And the reason they would kind of falsify it is to make their material more valuable and convince you that the going price is kind of higher than what it should be. And I've kind of found that out with the FR8 rifle. Okay, that's a good example, and I've got experience with it. I kind of got them, the hammer price was much lower than what the asking price on the gun broker is, but one of them, the extra fees added almost 2 C notes to the overall cost. So it could be people have bought these, ended up paying a high price, and are just trying to get their money out. Okay, not so much greed, but, and then again, I've been following it and tracking it. I think I have several examples up for sale right now on the gun broker. Okay, so it is not a rare or hard to find weapon. Okay, so that's how we get our value. Alright, so let's recap here. Plan ahead, know your current circumstances and what's going on. Have an idea of what the current value is, and some of that also too is how popular is this item. Things do fall out of favor, okay, and people are not willing to pay what they used to. Winchester Model 12s, for example. A friend of mine wanted me to sell one, and they were a hot commodity 15 years ago, and people would pay you pretty good what they are. And they kind of shifted out of favor, and in the end I couldn't get what we thought the value was out of it. And that's just one of the weird things whenever you're dealing with anything, be it cars, be it furniture, or your gun collection. Alright, so how would you go about, now that we know, think about your circumstances, plan ahead, don't be pressured, okay? And I know it's difficult because generally some people are just in a crisis and have to move this stuff as fast as they can. The need and the demand is there, okay? That may be out of your control. But the best thing to do is take your time, formulate a plan, understand what current values in the market situation is, and it's going to get worse because right now is the worst time with the economy in flux and an ongoing recession, and that recession may get worse. Now is not a good time to be trying to dump a gun collection out there. It's difficult. So what are some of the venues? We'll start with some simple ones. Like I said, if you're just selling a few pieces, like say you're sporting firearms, something like that, flea market, gun show, local newspaper ad, I don't know if they do that anymore, or arms list would be just like the old-fashioned newspaper ads. If you don't feel comfortable with that, or something that might not be for everybody, but that type of venue. Or friends, just ask if you belong to a veterans post or an organization, just to, say, hey, I'm selling some hunting rifles, and know what the going price is and put it out there. When it comes to collector's items, like your Milsurp guns, this is where networking with people come in. In my position, I know some younger fellas that are collectors that, have jobs and money, and every now and again I'll come, or a fellow collector. I got a guy that's a collector, and what I'll do is I'll just send him a text message for an even star. I say, hey, look, I got a duplicate in my collection, and I've sold him several things. I said, if you want to meet and look at it, this is what I'm looking at. And I generally I'm not asking him like top dollar, okay? So if the thing's going for like $4, I'll ask him $3.5 or something. And of course I bring him something that's good, okay, and worth that money. I don't bring him something that it was found at the bottom of a lake, okay? And he looked at it and said, yeah, I'll take it from you because this is nicer than what I got, and I'll trade the other one or something like that. Doesn't happen every time I contact him, but that's one venue to do it. It's simple, easy. I know the individual. I know he's a collector. I know if I have something that he's interested in, he'll at least look at it. And half the time, I can liquidate it that way. So it's good to know fellow collectors, okay, and especially if they're educated enough to know what the current value is, and you bring them something and you're offering them that at a little bit lower than the going rate, then generally the sale's over and done with, and good. As for auction houses, all of them have different rules and different things, and auction houses have several advantages. Okay, number one, like I said, when they travel to your home, but you're going to have something substantial. They're not going to travel on one of their countrywide sweeps to pick up $400 two, hunting shotguns. Okay, they're not going to do that. I think I dropped off 8 pieces, 8 weapons, and it was in a considerable amount of money. It wasn't, it was well over a few K. All right. Yeah, then they'll come do that, and I mean, they brought all the sleeves and they wrapped everything up, took it with them, which was cool. The only downside was it's 20% a flat fee, and they started off at a penny with no guarantee, no reserve. So you're kind of like at the will of the market. And I kind of did it also to see how it would turn out. And I watched their auctions and see what different things go for. And it's like with any auction, hit or miss. If you have a piece in there and you get 2 people fighting over it, they could drive it up to a higher price, and you'd be happy. And if you don't happen to have somebody liquid enough, and it don't go that high, you can lose. Okay, so this is where the time factor and all the other stuff comes in, because selling the pieces individually yourself is a time consuming thing, and a lot of hassles, a lot of difficulty to go and post them on the gun broker, which I've done. I've sold single pieces on there. There could be complications and hassles. Okay, and now with how they changed the laws about, I know President Trump signed an order saying that eliminated that weird, you have to be a gun dealer or have some sort of FFL or carry your own relic license to sell firearms privately. Okay, that's a gray area. A lot of people are paranoid. It's awful difficult just to sell a gun to someone. They don't know if they should, we should go through a dealer and get background checks and all this other stuff. And so that's difficult. And then I mentioned carry your own relic license. Okay. If you're collecting, and I know a lot of fellows do collect with a carry your own relic license. I never got one because there is a downside. I mean, it's really neat. It's accepted. You don't have to pay the transfer fees like I do whenever I get any type of a thing. But of course, there are a lot of guns I buy that are not CNR guns. The CNR license specifically states it is a license to collect, not to buy and sell firearms. So with that stipulation in there, a lot of that's why you get guys that want to trade. Say they bought something and it was 100, it was a C-note, and they had it for 15 years and now it's worth 3 or 4. And you got something new that came in that they want, and they about the same value, and they'd want to trade it. That's how you kind of make out. See, there's no money being transferred, this trade thing. And see, I don't know if you do kind of sell something, I mean, if you've been hanging on to it for a period of time, or the things are worth more, I don't know how it works. And then there's, people that use it, but I avoid that altogether, the CNR stuff. And I know people do it now, but I know very little about it, and I don't fool with it. Okay, so then, like I said, you got your, you either have fellow collectors you can sell some pieces to, or that's where you have to kind of socialize and build a network, to where people either at your gun club, at the American Legion, VFW, church, wherever. People interested in firearms or fellow collectors that you can send them a text message and you go, hey man, I want to sell this piece out of my collection. Are you interested? This is what I'm looking to get out of it. Okay, that's not the fast track, but it's a good track to have to get your value. So that's about it. Just the short version. If you try to sell pieces yourself through different venues, like I mentioned, either networking locally, on the gun broker. Anything antique I used to sell on the gun broker, but now I don't know, with the shipping restrictions both by UPS and the post office, you should be able to do it. But I see, again, also with all the mix-up of the gun laws, I guess they're changing the ATF and everything else. I don't know how difficult it would be. See, they made it very difficult for you to sell things individually. And the thing is, if you use your head and you have resources and networks, especially with highly collectible stuff, that's where you're going to get the most value out. Selling it to a fellow collector or somebody is going to be the end user, not somebody buying it at subpar value to mark it up and then sell it like a dealer. Unless you find, there's one more venue I forgot to mention, is a local gun shop that will take the firearms on commission. You may find someone like that. I knew 2 or 3 of them here, but I went into a gun shop and I went in there, and on the walls, they had some really interesting Milsurp, and the guy said, yeah, they're here on commission. But the prices were, so I don't know what kind of deal it is, or if these people were just fishing and put some extremely exorbitant prices on there. There was nothing in there I'd buy. There was a few pieces I was interested in, but the asking price was insane. Okay, and you will find that on a gun broker also. People asking $2.5K for a gun that maybe on a good day, depending on the condition, be worth 5-6C. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're hard to find. You don't see them come up that often, but not for 2.5K. No, it's very unrealistic. So we had all these venues. Let me think. There was something else. Okay, so you can do it on commission, and then reputable auction house. Another thing you should do is go to the gun boards forums or search around the web on forums. It takes time, but you'll find a lot of information if people tell you their experiences with some of these auction houses and what happened when they put things out there and sold it. Because I always thought the one auction house, one of the biggest ones in the country, would be a good place, but I heard several complaints when people went to sell. They believed that the current value was a certain amount, and they did sell a whole collection of some sort. Say it was like 8 firearms. They put them out there, and he thought his return would be a lot bigger than how it actually ended up. Okay, so that's where you got to do your own research and get a feel for this. Or another thing, do what I do. Take some pieces, gather up some stuff you want to sell, and then test the waters. The best way to do it is test the waters, call these people, and you don't have to agree to it. You just tell them what you're looking to consign, and find out all their information, what they do, and get the information there. And you could call several different places and just say, you know, I'm thinking of this. Can you please tell me how this would work with your company? And you could look around that way to find which, you know, is a reputable company, and then test the waters by sending them a few pieces and consigning some stuff and see what happens. That's one way to do it. I mean, but it's work. See, that's why, like at the beginning, I said, is there a time constraint? Or are you, you know, it's best to approach this without the pressure of time. Okay, take your time, because it's going to be a drawn-out process. It's going to take a lot of time and do this. But it would lean to where you can get more of the maximum value. Other than just calling the auction company and saying, I'm going to give you the whole collection at once, dispose of it. Now, that's an option if you don't want the hassle. If you don't want to do that, then search around for an auction company that will give you terms that you like, and go that route. Okay, so that's about it. As you see, it's not a simple process. It's difficult, and to get the value out of your items is a kind of a time-consuming process. Okay, or like I said, you could just roll the dice and go. You probably won't get the max value, but if your circumstances are urgent and pressing enough to where you time is a problem, you may have to go that route. Alright, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.